Thank you, everyone that is here tonight. So I just want to say hi to Alexis, Allison, April, Emily, Gretchen, Jessica, Lexi, Rebecca, and Samantha. Thank you for spending your evening with us. We know you have choices of how you spend your time, so thank you for choosing to be here. Tonight is a really important topic, I think, for all of us. And it's something that I know I struggle with, and others I'm sure can empathize. Knowing your value and finding the right ways to pitch, and when's the time to increase your price. So we have two experts this evening to present and answer some questions, and also just connect with us during a happy hour at the end. So first of all, we're joined with Nicole Powell. She's the CEO of Halkin Marketing. And upon graduation, Nicole actually worked for MTV News, and she got a taste for marketing from the Video Music Awards and has been stuck ever. She drank the Kool-Aid and has been here ever since. And about 5 years ago, to our luck, her husband got a job in St. Louis, and so she moved here and started Halcon Marketing to really do wholehearted marketing for brands, including strategy and content creation. So thanks for being here, Nicole.
Yeah, I'm so excited to be here. Thank you.
Thank
Oh
you.
my God, I can't see you, but hi.
And anyone who didn't hear earlier, Nicole is on maternity leave. So again, thank you for being here.
Oh yeah, I'm super. As I said earlier, thanks for having me. I'm so excited to be here and to talk to all of you. So thank you.
Thank you. And then we have Drea Rannick, who is the co-founder and owner of Tulu and Luso. So Tulu specializes in custom private labels. For those of you who don't know, they work with professional sports teams, entertainment, forward-thinking companies. Their process is really to create custom, unique vibes that translate into apparel, headwear, accessories for their fans. Often they take a back seat and let their customers shine. So we have two amazing women here, and they're both, their spaces are related, but they're very different. So you're going to be able to hear a little from each of them tonight. So thank you both. And I guess, do we want to jump in, or do you want to say anything before we get started?
Jump in. Go.
All right. Okay, so first things first. Just playing off the title of today's event, can you each start by sharing what you think adding tax means to you?
Go first, Nicole. Or you want me to jump in?
Cool. I can go first. Sure. Is that okay, Dre? Or...
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, cool. So to me, adding tax, are those kind of like intangibles outside of, especially in a service-based industry, the traditional kind of like business transaction, right? So I give you a service, you give me a payment, yada, yada. So I count tax as, what is my vision for my working relationship with my clients? What do I want to get out of my, my time? Like, what is my vision for my business? So that could be, I love clients who have high vibes, or, managing client expectations. I want people that have energy. I want people that are are trailblazers. Like, so it's really establishing what kind of environment I want to work in. I came from very stressful positions in the past, so I've kind of transitioned to, like, I just want it to be really collaborative and really positive. So to me, that's something that you can't really pay for, right? Or you can't really exchange money for, right? To me, it's really important. So that's kind of my tax, so to speak.
Thank you.
It's interesting because I did mostly intangibles and in product. So it's sort of different than, like, Nicole deals more in services, right? But I kind of started wrapping my head around the concept of tonight's talk and sort of like, what's your worth and ad tax. And for me, like, the ad tax is like, sometimes it's so hard for us to quantify, like, ourselves when we're trying to figure out what we're worth, how we're valuing our businesses and what we do. And so I think we tend to think, like, okay, like, I spent this much on materials, I spent this much time, I'm going to pay myself whatever, which is usually not as much as we deserve. And then we forget the tax, which really to me is it's your knowledge, it's your understanding of your industry, it's your IP, it's your concepts, is what your brain brings to it. It's all the things that are so unique to you that you're bringing into whatever your product or your service is. Those things are your added tax that's unique to you, and you can't forget that that is a part of your work.
Thank you. So like we said, we have two very different but aligned speakers this evening. So, and this question is for both of you, and I think the answer is going to be very different, but still like-minded. Where do you start when it comes to pricing yourself? Andrea, do you want to go first this time?
Sure. Well, it's interesting because, again, like I said, I deal more in intangibles, but I have been through many jobs and many different parts of the fashion and the apparel industry. So I used to make custom clothing. I made wedding gowns. I made dresses, like all of those things, before I really got to working as a designer from through a big box business. And I think starting valuing yourself is difficult. So I think it is thinking about what your industry pay. And some of that, it's so much easier now because you can Google a lot of it to figure out what an average industry pay is, and you can even do it by areas, right? In the Midwest is maybe different than the West Coast, is maybe different than the East Coast. And then, for me, trying to price objects and tangibles, there are a lot more, there's structure to it. There is averages. Now, different industries charge different upcharges or different margins. But in general, retail, has a very specific system. I'm happy to go into that if you want me to, or we can wait and talk more about that later. But
yeah, I would maybe let's go ahead and if you can share a little bit of that right now, and then we'll circle back to it as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is I can't see anybody else, but hello everybody. I don't know who is, maker or who deals in tangible things, but I'm very enthusiastic about this subject and really actually sort of volunteered to talk about this tonight when the Women's Creative said that they were working on the subject, because it is something that we deal with so frequently at the boutique. And so Luso is my other business, and that is a boutique here in Clayton. And we're a lifestyle store. We carry women's clothing, jewelry, gifts, home decor, candy, all kinds of stuff. So really in the general retail business, wholesale is typically half of retail. That's called keystoning. So if you pay $10 wholesale for an item, keystone would be $20. Now in the luxury industry, that's higher. We deal a lot in arenas and special events places, and that is even higher. So in luxury, we say typically 2.2 to 2.3 is the markup, meaning you buy something for $10, then we're going to charge 22 or 23 for it. And again, this is sort of specific to this. There are industries like groceries, totally different margin number. Bikes, totally different margin number. But then, like I said, for arena spaces, for things like that, they go anywhere from 2.5 to 3.0. Luxury goods, often jewelry, even designer jewelry is 3.0, meaning, if we pay $10 for it, we charge $30 for it. And, people think, oh my gosh, retail, they're making so much markup. It's such a, it's a racket, but what, there's so much that goes into that, right? It's the salaries of everyone that works for us. It's really expensive rent, especially if you're talking luxury, then typically the areas that a luxury shop is in, then those are going to be more expensive areas. So the rent is higher. The utilities, paying somebody for marketing, paying our staff, paying for music license rights so we can play music in the store. There are so many things that go into our overhead that, it sounds like it's a lot, but it's really not necessarily a lot.
No, thank you for sharing.
Mm-hmm.
Nicole, do you want to talk about how you, in kind of the marketing space, service-based space, how do you price yourself?
So I'm going to share a story. I guess. So when I first started this business, I had never started a business before. I'd always worked for companies, so I kind of came into it not knowing what to do. I kind of just picked like a random number and was like, oh, okay, I guess this is my hourly, I guess. Um, so it actually wasn't, and also I was like putting everything towards the business. And I think, Dre, you alluded to this earlier, like we pay ourselves probably nowhere near the amount that we should be
much less than we're worth.
Yeah. So when I first started, I literally was putting everything back towards the business because there's that like scarcity mindset, like that fear of like, oh my God, this could come crumbling tomorrow and then I'll have nothing kind of thing. So it actually wasn't until I hired like a financial advisor. I am a marketing person. I'm very creative, but I'm not a numbers person. And I'm just going to admit that right now. So I hired a financial advisor and she was just shocked. She was like, Nicole, what are you doing? You're paying yourself like $20 every month for like all the work that you're doing. So she kind of like schooled me a little bit. So essentially, now obviously I have all this experience and things like that, but it's hard to kind of quantify that, right? Like, oh, you worked X amount, so that's equivalent to this amount, right? But now kind of like my formula is I kind of take a look at what our sales revenue is for the month, and then I look at all of the hours that I work in that month, and I divide sales revenue by hours to come up with my hourly rate, because that's essentially how much I'm worth to the business. So if I'm doing, it's a good kind of gauge to like, what are the tasks that I can outsource, right? Because if I'm spending 10 hours a day on bookkeeping or filing things away, then that's revenue I'm taking away from the business, because essentially I'm worth X amount. And I could essentially use that time to growing my business, but instead I'm using it for kind of tasks that are kind of an admin kind of things. So that's now how I price myself. In the beginning, I literally just closed my eyes and picked a number. And then we're obviously an agency as well. So every project involves not just me, but a group of other people. So I think Drea mentioned like, oh, you must be, making a huge profit because you mark things up. But I mean, there's like Dropbox subscriptions, there's like Canva, there's like Adobe subscriptions, then there's like you pay your staff. So it's actually not that much coming in. But I think in the beginning, when you don't have that idea, and this is why I suggest reaching out to someone if you're not familiar with doing bookkeeping or things like that, just like you would reach out to somebody else who might be an expert in that field. Like definitely do this to get an understanding of your books and how much you're making and how much is going out, and really focusing on the numbers as well, because that's how I determined my hourly, is by really kind of collaborating with my financial advisor and looking at how much my time was worth to the business and how much my overhead essentially was for every project. So it's a little bit different when you have like a marketing team, because it's not just me working on something, right? It's like me plus 3 people. So you kind of have to take that into account when you're pricing your hourly for different projects, if that makes any sense. And please feel free to chat me a question if that didn't make sense at all.
No, that was really helpful.
Oh, cool.
So April just said, I found that you'd be surprised how candid strangers will be with you if you reach out. I reached out to several people and I found out all over the US that do what I do, and they were very forthcoming with pricing and how their businesses work too. So helpful. So that's something I've noticed as well, kind of in this space, because I'm also a service-based company, that others are really willing to give those golden nuggets and support, because there really is enough business for all of us out there. And if we can give a little knowledge and make it a little easier for someone else. So just kind of expanding a little bit on, Nicole, your process for pricing. So when you think about pricing, whenever you pitch a client, and you're pitching your entire team, so do you have certain rates for like nonprofits or corporate partners? or other styles of clients kind of based upon their budget, or do you kind of on bake the cake each time and cater it? What does that look like?
So everything we do, I have like baseline packages, but I'll tell you this right now, I never pitch the same package to every client.
Mm-hmm.
Because everyone has different needs and people are in different industries, right? Mm-hmm. So there's no like one size fits all solution for people. And also people have different budgets, right? So I have different tiers. So let me give you an example for social media, for instance. Like some people either can afford or don't want to do social media at all, right? So they're willing to be like, here, Nicole, take it. I don't even want to see Instagram ever, right? But then there's people who might not have the budget to have like a full social media manager, but they want you to they want, strategies and guidelines. So obviously that's at a low price point. So it's really giving people different options. And you uncover all of this, and I'm sure you guys know from the service industry standpoint through like discovery calls and like your first kind of strategy call to really figure out what the client wants, and then tailoring your services and your packages to what they need. So I think it's really important. I know for me as clients, as I was a client for other people before, to feel like the person you're talking to is not just kind of trapping you in a box of service that there's no wiggle room, right? So it's really crucial for me from a customer service standpoint and from a business standpoint to make sure that the client feels heard and that I can address their different needs and try to find some sort of solution for their budget. Like I hate turning people down because, oh, you can't do this. Like there's something we can make happen. We just have to figure out what that is. Oh, I think we have a question. Did that answer your question, Lindsay?
Yes. No, that was really helpful. I've tried doing the same and I wanted to make sure I wasn't crazy.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Nicole, do you base your pricing, do you do project based or do you do hourly based?
So it depends. So we do project based, and then we also do monthly retainers. So for instance, we have certain clients that have like 25 hours with us every month. So we will do whatever needs to be done to move the business forward or whatever the goals are within that 25-hour time frame. So some people might not have the budget for 25 hours. So let's maneuver it so it's like 15 hours a month or something like that. But then it could also be project-based where, hey, I need a website done. I need it done in 3 months. Let's do this. And then it would be more of a one-time project. So it really varies depending on what the person needs. A lot of the times we move from project-based to like monthly retainers just because that's how it works, because they want things maintained, but we kind of offer a bunch of different options.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you. We had a few questions come in for our service providers that are attending. Drea, do you mind if we answer one of these questions, and then I want to move over to some product pricing?
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, so Allison and April both are wondering about, they started at one price, and now they feel like that price is a little low, but they're worried if they increase that no one will be willing to pay that price. So when do you know it's time to increase? And then kind of to tack on to that a bit, do you disclose your hourly rate to your clients whenever you're sharing your package pricing?
So let me start with that question first.
Yeah.
I always disclose, I'm pretty transparent with the pricing. So I even break it down for people. Like, okay, this is my hourly, whatever, this is my developer's hourly, this is whomever. So they're well aware like what they're paying for. And also for the retainer packages that we do, the monthly retainers, the benefit there is that we all have the same rate. So I work on a project, so obviously my rate will be higher than someone else's, But if you do like a monthly retainer, I'll work on your account, but you're paying the same rate as you would pay somebody else. So that's kind of like the benefit to that. But I definitely recommend, at least personally, being really transparent with your clients as far as the pricing is concerned, because people want to know, especially in marketing, in like agency world, like, where is the money going? How is it being used? You're telling me you're working 5 hours a month. What was my 5 hours worth of money going toward? Just a reassurance kind of thing. And it's always nice to be, transparent with folks. And then as far as increasing your rate, I kind of want you to position or think of this differently. And look at it like, how can I phrase this? What do you think your value is? And if that is based off your experience, based off of what you offer, based off of the awesome knowledge and expertise you provide, that is your rate. Like, I wouldn't base it off of, well, will clients leave? Will clients not want to work with me because this is my rate? Like, this is your value. This is your worth. Charge it. That is my biggest advice. And that's something that I wish I did in the beginning, because I was like you, April, like I was like super nervous. I was like, oh my God, no one's going to pay for this, blah, blah, blah. Like, they're going to question me. It's all like imposter syndrome, right? And I fully admit I did have it. I still have it. I will probably continue to have it, but you kind of like work with it a little bit. And it's just basically knowing your worth and knowing your value and charging what you think it is. And the people that will value what you have to offer will pay for it, because you're working with you, talking to you, they're going to see what you bring to the table, and they're not going to, negotiate with you or try to push back. They're going to see what you're going to offer them and how valuable you are, and they will pay for it. And you just go in there with confidence and just charge your worth.
Do you, one quick question. If you have been working with a client for a year, they're at a certain price, and it's time to increase your price. Have you ever gone back to a client and asked and, mentioned to them that prices are increasing? How do you address those conversations? Or have you done that before?
I have. I mean, obviously I started the business and my pricing was different, and the business evolved. More people come in to the fold, into the team. So I'm pretty honest, kind of similar to the transparent kind of hourly rate. I just tell people, the team is growing. We're increasing efficiencies with kind of new processes and systems and software and all of that jazz. So we're going to be increasing the hourly rate, or this is going to be the new price for this package because we've, done extra. But most of the time it's because we're adding more value to what they're getting. So it's not just, oh, I'm going to increase the price just for the heck of it, but it's because we're evolving and we're getting better. So as we evolve and get better and better serve you, that means that we are paying for more things, right? Or we're kind of taking on more people that have better expertise or more expertise to help serve you. So there's always this added value portion of it. And I found that we explain and are forthcoming with this information with clients. They're pretty understanding. I mean, as a B2B kind of business, like all businesses kind of have to increase pricing sometimes. And I think a lot of them really understand that the value that you bring, so they're willing to pay for it because they understand what they're getting in return. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
I think you can tell your clients that like you appreciate that you value them and that they've been a client for a long time, and that you're increasing your prices, but maybe you're giving them a little bit of a deal because they have been a really loyal client of yours and that you do appreciate them. And so that I think a little of that goes a long way when you're increasing your prices too, is to understanding that you're expecting them to pay more, but that you're giving them a little something more also.
Exactly.
Thank you. That's great. So I do want to come, we had a couple questions. We will circle back to that. Sorry, my dog is now drinking his water. So if you can hear that, that's Buddy. He says hello. Okay, Drea, I really want to talk about product pricing because I know that we have a few quite a few product businesses on here. I know Reby is from Freya's Haven, and there's a couple others. So I just want to make sure we're also focusing on this for a little while. So can you talk about how do you establish product worth whenever you are thinking about your price for your products?
Well, I kind of explained earlier about like how we price at retail from a wholesale price, right? And pricing at wholesale, which is our other business, is a whole different set because it just doesn't have the same amount of margin in it because it's a smaller amount. So it's kind of hard. Like, think about this, like when you're having a garment made, like, if you go all the way back to the guy that makes the buttons, the guy that makes the fabric, like they're making the least amount and the least amount of margin because they're starting at the very beginning. So those buttons, like you're like, oh my gosh, buttons are only 5 cents in China, but it's because that button, even if it is 5 cents, then it gets added to the fabric that's this and the other thing that's this. And then the garment manufacturer who buys the button from that guy doubles that. And then they make it and then they charge the person who's acquiring that double. And then, the wholesaler is going to charge twice that. And then the retailer is going to charge twice that, which is how, in the food chain of retail, you start out with like a $5 or 5 cent button and it, basically ends up as an $80 button. At retail, because it just kind of keeps rolling up and getting doubled and doubled as it goes through the system, really. So I sort of explained about, like keystoning and stuff, but one of the things that I really wanted to talk about this evening is we have lots of cool artists and makers who come to us and they have this product and they've been making their product and it's something really cool that we're interested in. I think it's important when you're making your product and you're kind of learning to sell it, you kind of have to figure out what your sales model is going to be. And it's not to say that you can't switch sales models, but you sort of have to be prepared if you think you might want to switch a sales model, because it's so much easier now to do direct to consumer. It's so much easier to set up a Shopify website, to sell at pop-up markets, to do all of those things. But if you want to, everything in retail is like quantity versus pricing, right? Like the amount if you can sell more, you can have less margin and make more money, right? So it's sort of like, do you want to sell, if you want to do direct to market, then you have to sell each piece singly. So you get your full retail markup, which is way more than you would if you're selling at wholesale. However, then you are doing the extra work of packaging it, shipping it, doing all of that, and you have your own overhead, right? Where if you can sell, when you sell to a retailer, you're probably going to sell 12 at a time, or maybe you're going to sell 100 at a time. And so you can take less margin for that because you're selling more of them at a quicker turn, like, one sale, 100 pieces is easier, right? So that's the reason people want to sell wholesale to retailers, and also because you want to be in cool boutiques and you want to sell, you want your name out there. You want people to be seeing it in different outlets and things like that. So where the struggle comes in, and the thing that I love to talk to makers and artists and jewelry makers and anybody that's coming and thinking they want to sell in a boutique, is that if you price your product as a direct to consumer, so I'm going to go back to the $10 model. Mind you, I realize nothing in this world is $10, but we like to use $10 because it's easy math. And much like Nicole, I'm a creative, not a numbers person. So anyway, if you are, putting $10 worth of your time into your piece of jewelry and you're selling it direct to the consumer for $10, you're not really making anything, right? So here's your first problem. You need to be making more money on that end. You need to be adding in all of those things that you're paying for, plus your IP, your ideas, your creative, like all of that, right? So you're adding your tax to it. But then if you are, say, charging $12 for it, direct to consumer, and you come to me and you want me to buy it, then if I'm buying it from you for $12 or even for $10, then I'm charging $20 or $24 for it. So now where the problem comes in is you can't continue to sell it, especially if we're in the same market. If it's all local and in St. Louis, if you're selling it for $12, why is somebody going to want to come to me and pay $24 for it, right? But if I look at it and I think it's amazing and I think it's worth $24 and I'm willing to charge retail $24, then you should be charging $24 for it too. Because A, it's supply and demand, it's consumer demand. If I think it's worth $24, if a consumer will pay $24 for it, then it's worth $24. Plus, you get all that retail markup. You get twice as much as you were getting before. So you might as well be pricing it at the same amount that a retailer would be pricing it at. So I wanted to put that out there so that, makers are thinking about it. If they're thinking they want to translate into that model, you need to be charging a lot more for your product. So I think and maybe this is a female thing too, I think we tend to undervalue ourselves. And so we think, okay, I put this much into it, but I don't want to charge too much because what if people won't buy it? And kind of goes back to what Nicole was saying. But really, if you look in the marketplace and you're like, I'm making this thing and people are charging everywhere from $8 to $58, and you kind of start honing in, do your research, start honing in, figure out what's the kind of stores that you think are good for your product are selling things at. Shop around, look at stuff, and figure out what the retail might be and kind of back into it and see if you're making enough money and if you can work it out to wholesale in a way that you're still making enough money that they can charge that for retail.
Thank you.
That was a whole economics lesson. I hope it made sense.
Fascinating.
It is fascinating. It really is.
So charge more. Moral of the story is charge more, people.
Oh, yeah. That was great.
Yeah, no, that's so helpful. Okay, any of our makers, be sure to pop your questions into the chat too. I know we have quite a few with us. So one question that someone had mentioned to me in advance of this, and I know you've talked about it, but I kind of want to hone in on it for a minute. So if you're a direct consumer wanting to switch to wholesale, do you have, how do you determine if that's within range and kind of what's your process for that? Or do you have any recommendations for that?
If you're wanting to switch to wholesale?
Yes. Or yeah.
Yeah. So if you can, there's lots of things to do there. So first, kind of what I was saying about doing your research, figuring out, now that you sort of know how retail prices work, you can figure that out, that most likely the wholesale is going to be half to less than half of what something is, right? So if you start shopping around and you're like, okay, I make this fabulous pen, and I've been looking at stores that sell other fabulous pens, and how much are they selling them for? And they're selling them for $50, which means that the wholesale is 25 or less, because no retailer is basically charging, is doing less than that for markup. So you can kind of go half and then down from there and sort of figure out whether or not that is a number that you can do. Mm-hmm. There are also markets for everything. Anything that is basically a tangible, there is a specialty market for it. Most of these markets honestly happen on the East and the West Coast, but not all of them. And there are regional markets that happen everywhere. So like the biggest show on earth for like gift and home and all of that is in New York City. It's called New York Now. It's quite expensive to show there. And they charge you everything, including $800 to rent a trash can, and you can't bring your own. I mean, it's crazy. But there are regional ones that happen great ones in Atlanta and in Dallas and in California. But there's also even smaller regional ones like Las Vegas and Chicago and different things like that. There are specialty food markets that happen in all of those places. I mean, you can kind of start Googling that and seeing what these markets are. Now, some of these markets, you can go to as a buyer, you can sign up and go to as a buyer. Most of them don't. If you have a brick and mortar or an online store, they're not going to charge you to go to these markets, which is great. If you're an exhibitor, what you are contemplating being an exhibitor, you can call them and ask them if you can attend as a future exhibitor. They will most likely say yes. Some of them get a little testy about that because they don't want you to go to market and basically rip off what other people are doing. Hopefully none of us are doing that, but you know, the fashion industry is sort of a world of copying everybody else. But you can go, you can ask to tell them you're a potential exhibitor and go. Or you can go with a friend who has a retail store, or you can come with me sometime, you know. But there are lots of shows that you can go to and kind of get a good feel for that kind of stuff. See what people are charging wholesale for, that kind of thing. So, I mean, I think it's basically, it's doing your research, and now that you know, you can kind of calculate half or less. That helps too, I think.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We have a question in the chat. So I've figured out how much my product costs, including how much I want to be paid. Should I price it at 3 times or 4 times direct to consumer? Assuming both would be roughly in range.
I'm thinking 3 times is probably a good amount. If the market will bear it, you know, if you do the research and that retail seems reasonable compared to other people doing the same kind of product, then I think that that's probably a good amount, because you're building a little bit of safe space in there, you know, if you need it. But I think that, you know, that amount times 3 at retail, like, which would be direct to consumer, I think is probably a good number.
Okay. Thank you.
But do 4 if you can. Make more money.
Thank you. Any other questions, please put them in the chat. So this is a question for both of you. You know, imposter syndrome is real. You mentioned it earlier, Nicole, and I'm sure we've all struggled with it in some capacity or another. So for both of you, and your pricing structures are obviously different, but what are some of your tips for fighting imposter syndrome and holding your guns for your price? Like, how do you stand your ground when you are defending your price, whether it's for your product or for your service?
I'll be honest, I haven't had a bunch of experience where people really like fought me on the price. But I can kind of tackle the imposter syndrome thing. I'm all about, like, I love self-help books. I'm all about podcasts and affirmations and all that jazz. That is me. So, you know, I actually, don't make fun of me, guys, but I actually write down, like, I have like a little note on my, this is kind of embarrassing. So I have like a note on my phone about just like accomplishments that I've had in my personal and professional life, like in my career or whatever. Like, I did this, I was able to do this. And then when I ever feel like, am I worth it? Do I deserve this? Can I do this? Like, I read it, and it just serves as like a reminder that you're already there, you know, like you already have the skills, you have the knowledge. Don't doubt yourself, because you did and accomplished all of these great things. Sometimes you just have to remind yourself of these things. And I get anxious, I get anxiety, like when things happen, I like, you know, I do freak out sometimes. So I kind of have to like ground myself a little bit, do some meditation, read my little affirmation history of my life kind of note. And it kind of brings me back to reality and kind of tackles that kind of imposter. And I would answer that other question about like someone to kind of battle me on my pricing. As I mentioned, like, I'm pretty with you know, the hourly rates and like all of that time on each product. because of that transparency, I think that's probably one reason why people don't really come back and say, well, can you lower your price? Can you negotiate with me? Or is it really worth that? I think in the proposal phase, which is very key, right? When you are a service-based industry, my kind of process is we do like a discovery call. I really kind of like get an idea of what the person needs or wants or really wants. Sometimes what we say we want isn't what we really need, right? And then we schedule another meeting to do more of like a proposal meeting, right? So, hey, I listened to what you have to say. This is what I'm proposing. And then in that proposal, you kind of outline why you're awesome, right? Like, I have this, these are our clients, these are some of our success stories, these are our wins. So in that proposal phase, before you even talk about how much it's going to cost, you're already displaying your value, right? And you're displaying your experience. So when that slide comes at the end, which I dread, which has the numbers, I'm going to admit I like hate that slide. They already understand, like, okay, this is why they price that way, or this is what makes them different from other people that are out there that might be saying, oh, we'll give you 50% off, So in how you kind of work with the clients and how you get to know them and how you build those authentic connections with them, ultimately they're going to see your value and why you price the way you do. And then hopefully you will get a lot of pushback because you've already displayed why you're pricing your packages that way. If that makes any sense.
That's amazing. Thank you.
Sure. Let's all write affirmation notes tonight. Oh my God. I can't believe I said that. My husband doesn't even know I have that on my phone.
No, I think that's awesome. This is my version of an affirmation note. I keep my Chinese cookies.
Oh yeah.
You'll be successful through innovation and determination. And I'm like, heck yeah, I will. And my fortune cookie even knows it.
Oh God. Love it.
The imposter syndrome thing, I don't know that. I think that's just a struggle with self-worth, right? Like, I mean, we all have that with different things. I mean, for me, I am not an athletic person. So when I wear tennis shoes, I get imposter syndrome. And I know that sounds really strange and backwards, but I sort of I feel like a poser if I wear tennis shoes because I'm like, everybody knows I don't use tennis shoes, So it's a funny thing, but I think being in an industry like I'm in and having the kind of store that I have, we have this really beautiful upscale boutique in this really beautiful neighborhood, but I'm still Jenny from the block. People think that because we're in Clayton, that we're like these rich trust fund girls, and we're not. We're just all hardworking girls. I live in South City, just like probably half of you guys do. And I have loans and I have all kinds of stuff, So we're just because we're in a high rent district doesn't mean we're high rent, right? Which is where the imposter syndrome comes in for me, because we have customers who have lots more expendable income than I have, but I keep it real. I tell people my husband is a second grade teacher. I am not in the high rent district. I am just a hardworking girl who knows what she likes and can put things together well, and so I think one of the important things for me when people want to balk at a price, because we get people who balk at a price, I think it's knowing the story. If you arm yourself with the knowledge, whether that's your own product or something that you have chosen, or it's yourself and your story and your service, you have to arm yourself with the knowledge of that worth and be able to be like, you know what? I understand that this sounds expensive, but it's expensive because it's handmade, because it comes from Italy, because it's been through these 3 passes, because somebody is still sitting in a workshop doing this work because their grandfather taught them how to do it 100 years ago. These things are priceless. So these are the things that add into this product. Or talking about your own work. Hey, look, I've been in this industry this long. I know what I'm doing. I've worked with these clients. I've done this, this, and this. You just arming yourself with the knowledge and being comfortable speaking it or writing it down is the important part. And if you can explain why something is valuable, then somebody else will know that it's valuable. And if that doesn't reach your customer, then maybe they don't deserve you anyway.
Love that. Thank you. Thank you both. Yeah, April said own it. Agreed.
On it.
Okay, so I think this segues perfectly into marketing yourself and kind of selling yourself. So for both of you, when I look at your brands on social and your websites, you can tell that Halcon and Tulu and Luso are powered by real humans. So when you're kind of starting your brand and in the beginning of all of this, how important do you feel it is to share your personal story or present yourself in your marketing or in your sales process? And I know what you do isn't right for everyone, but do you have any golden nuggets for kind of determining if it's right or not?
Ooh, I struggle with this one. I do. I do not like having my picture out there. Of the four of us that own Luso, not a single one of us likes having our picture taken or be out there. And yet, everything you read says engagement is so much higher, and people love to know you. They love to know your story. They want to, they want to know the owner. They want to know why you do what you do and who you are, and they want to be friends with you and they want to like you. And it's I think people really enjoy that part of it. And so I struggle with it, but I do it grudgingly and not as much as I should.
Nicole, what about you? And you've also started a new brand as well, if you want to talk a little bit about that too.
Oh yeah, sure. So to answer your question first, I think it's very important. Sorry, Drea. It's very important to show your story. Primarily being, with social media and all this stuff, there's just so much noise, right? I mean, if you look at candles, how many people sell candles? How many people sell this? How many people sell that, right? So, and they're all beautiful. They're all great. Like, they all look great. The product shots are great, all of that. But when people are bombarded with all this noise, whether negative or positive, right? Sometimes the differentiating factor for your business that can make someone gravitate towards you over somebody else is because they like you, right? They like your story. Like, for instance, Dre, I love that. The story that you just said about, like, hey, my husband's a second grade teacher. I'm just a hardworking gal. Like, I just know how to piece. I love that because for me, I would gravitate towards someone who I can relate to a little bit more rather than someone who I know probably this is their hobby. Like, you know what I mean? Like, they just have $1 million and they're like, oh, I'm just going to have a store of all my favorite thing. You know what I mean? Right. So for me, I like to, and I recommend this for my clients as well, is infusing your personal brand story into your marketing. And if you are uncomfortable with being on camera or with taking pictures, I think there are other ways to infuse your story in there without having your face there all the time. So it's actually interesting because I started this separate kind of baby of Halcon, which is like Nicole Powell brand, and it's all for like people, because contrary to popular belief, like, although I like wanted to be on camera when I was younger, I actually am really awkward in certain instances when it comes to like being in front of a camera or like taking pictures of myself or doing Instagram reels. I'm like the word TikToks, like I like cannot do it. So there's like certain ways that we can show up in our marketing if we shy away from those things that other people do so well, where I'm like amazed at some people's reels and TikTok videos, right? Where we can still show up and show our personality, show our history, and create those pieces of content that really opens up our lives and our whys to our audience. But I definitely think it's important, especially because oversaturated markets with a bunch of people that do similar things or sell similar things that we do, what's going to build that authentic connection between us and our audience and our ideal clients can oftentimes be just our history and our whys and our values and our mission and vision. And if we just present our products or our services all the time, people are going to miss that. And then they might gravitate towards someone who shares a little bit more insight into their lives or why they started their business in the first place. So yeah, that was my answer.
I was just reading too that Instagram reposts pictures with faces more than anything else, because people spend more time on pictures with faces and it knows that. So it feeds pictures with faces out more frequently. And I was like, because I mean, like our Instagram is full on product shots, very few faces, you know, other than like a few like model faces. And I tend to think in the clothing industry that sometimes faces are distracting from looking at the apparel that's on the model. So sometimes I like to actually, you know, like do the cut off head model shot. And then I'm like, oh, dang, Instagram's screwing with my vibe. Like, how do I do that? But it's true. You have to put faces out there, yours or somebody else's. Instagram likes them.
You can also experiment, you know, like, hey, maybe next month I'm going to do 50% images of my family, or I'm making this up, and then the rest are just product shots, or the rest are just quotes or whatever. And then look at your analytics. Like, I'm all about looking at analytics and see what resonates. You know, when you're marketing your business, you should be always adjusting, shifting strategies, looking at your data and seeing what's working and what's not. Because if you keep doing what's not working, then again, you're just wasting your time that you could be using on getting more clients or selling more products, right? So it's very important to, you know, kind of experiment and see what works for your specific audience. Again, because for your business, they might just want to look at products and they don't care about you at all, right? But so you're not going to know that unless you do some experimenting and looking at your data and what posts or what content is really vibing with people.
Thank you.
Sorry for my lighting too. I'm struggling here in my basement. So.
I know. I had to move. I moved mid-event.
God, it's like struggle.
Okay, so before we, so at 8:00 we're going to transition into. We're going to show all of our guests in the screen. You can choose to turn your screen off or on, but this is where we kind of segue into more questions from you, happy hour style, where we can just chat and connect and we get to hear about our guests as well. Before we do that, which I think could help segue, so obviously selling is a huge part of once you know your value, it's time to sell. What's your like top tip for pitching yourself? Whether it be, you know, finding the client or once you've found the client, selling to them. So what's your top pick for selling or pitching yourself?
Be authentic. I mean, I think it is what it is. And I find that is the one thing that we get feedback on more than anything, is that we're authentic. We are who we are and we put it out there and we tell people. And I think that in both or in all of my several businesses, that's people will tell us they like to work with us because we're real. And I think that you can't replace that.
Yeah, I'm just going to piggyback off of that. You know, being yourself, especially if you're a service-based business, you're going to be working closely with your clients day in and day out. So you don't want to present yourself in pitch phase. One, you're not. And then you work with them and you realize that you don't really vibe very well. And you want to be excited when you're helping a client, right? You want to really support them. And if you guys aren't meshing well because personalities just aren't working, then, it's not going to be a healthy and happy relationship for both of you moving forward. So for me, this is how I pitch. Like what you see now with sorry for the lighting, all that jazz. This is how I pitch to people, so they understand what they're getting when they come and talk to me. And then I also like to just also be really upfront with the process, my process, manage expectations and things like that, so nothing is a surprise once they sign on the dotted line. But yeah, just to echo what Drea said, just be authentic and being yourself. And I think, Lindsay, you mentioned there's a lot of business for all of us, right? So some people are going to gravitate towards you, but some people are going to gravitate towards someone else, and it's okay. The people that gravitate towards you are meant to gravitate towards you because they like how you work and like who you are. So we'll all find our tribes, whoever they are.
And I think sometimes like having a recommendation, if something's not working or something's not vibing, like even for us at the store, if we don't have something and somebody's seeking it, I would rather tell them about some other store that I love that might have it, recommending. And I've had service-based people that were like, you know what, actually, I don't think I'm what you're looking for, but my friend over here does more of that kind of thing. And I think that that's such a value to someone that they know their worth enough to be able to recognize that it's okay to pass it on to somebody else, and that they recognize somebody else who does something similar's worth is really nice too. And I'm all about karma. I believe that'll come back to you. Somebody else will recommend you.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Thank you both. And I couldn't think of a better segue into where our guests get to introduce themselves as well. So one by one, we're going to see everyone start joining us. And again, you have the choice to either turn your screen off or turn it off or keep it off. So, okay, everyone is becoming panelist.
I had salty dinner. I'm going to run grab myself a glass of water.
You're a pro at this, Lindsay.
Oh,
I'm
thank
the
you.
worst at Zoom.
It's taken some practice.
Like, how do I share my screen? It's like I'm my grandma. It's so bad. Hi. Hi, everyone. God, my lighting's terrible.
Okay, I think everyone is a panelist now.
Wow.
Hi, everybody.
Hello.
Everybody.
Thank you all for being here tonight. And again, I'm so grateful for this time tonight with you, Drea and Nicole. So we've spent an hour with you, and now I want to spend some time with our guests. So why don't we one by one, let's just have everyone introduce yourself to the group and share a little bit about your company or your service, whatever you want the group to know. So Alexis, you are the first one that I see.
Wow. Okay. Hi. I'm Alexis Giger. My business is called Little Cliff. I do clothing repairs. So if you've got like a busted pair of jeans that needs a fix or a patch, I do that, and I collect vintage and resell. So yay, I'm very excited to be here with all of you.
Yeah. So little patches too. You're selling yourself short, Alexis. So especially hand repaired.
Thank you.
Thank you. There's your first tip. And then I see Allison.
I was like, usually I go first because
I know.
But and also Alexis, I think I follow you, but also I see some of your stuff at Maze, so I love it.
Awesome, thanks.
Yeah. So yeah, Allison Diaz here. I joined this group pretty recently and I've just been soaking up everything. I'm working on launching my own photography and marketing consulting business after leaving corporate America for 7 years, working in sales and marketing in the beverage industry. So yeah, at this point, I'm kind of like really focusing on refining what I really want to do and building a solid foundation. So I found this really, really helpful, especially as I think that's been like something that I just have been stopping at with pricing and building my value, because everything that you said, like retweet, imposter syndrome and not knowing exactly what to charge. So this was really helpful and just really validating. So thank you. And I love the quote. I just want to thank you, Nicole. I love the quote, the people who will value what you have to offer will pay for it. I love that. Thank you so much.
Well, and congrats. It's exciting that you're starting. Yay.
Thank you so much. I would love to reach out to either of you guys and check in with you at some point.
Absolutely.
You do, yeah. You could do it later. We'll talk later.
Yes, totally. Thank you.
And we can all keep talking now too. So, okay, next I see April.
Okay, can everyone hear me? Unmuted. Okay, cool. A year and a half later, we're still figuring out Zoom. Hi, everyone. I'm April. I'm the owner of Peachy Keen Culinary Consulting. So I do a service-based consulting company, and I started last May, actually. So about a year in, during a pandemic when the restaurant industry is crumbling. Great timing. But I've about 8 years of culinary experience. Most recently, I came from Caldi's Coffee. I was their culinary director. So I came up with all of the food and bakery menus. I helped with all of their food costing and just helping their bottom line with the food program there. I got to be creative and create all these new menu items. I also got to use my science brain because my degree is actually in science, completely unrelated, but I love to geek out over numbers and stuff. Not like Nicole. So I loved diving into how to help their cost of goods and bottom line and all of that. So basically I just wanted to take everything I was doing for Caldi's and do it for other bakeries and other restaurants and cafes around the St. Louis area, and maybe even expand into other areas someday too. But for now, I'm just staying put in St. Louis. So yeah, that's what I do.
Thank you. And then next I see Emily.
Hi, I'm Emily. I'm a graphic designer and lettering artist. So I sell hand lettered products in local shops. So prints, frame prints, cards, mugs, stickers, and then I do some freelance design for established brands. And it's kind of it's a full-time thing, but I still work a full-time job. So I'm working on building it up to working my own business full-time eventually. So that's the end goal.
Double full-time. And I was showing my sticker, my cute Emily style sticker.
I know, I love your stuff. I think that's one topic, just quick segue. That's one topic we've been wanting to talk about is, when your side hustle becomes your full-time. So would love to talk more. Okay. And then next I see Rebecca, which you go by Reby, right?
It's Rebby. So
yes, yeah, thank you.
Like Debbie, but with an R.
Yes, thank you.
Yep. So let's see, I'm the owner of Freya's Haven, and I do crystals and meditation. So crystal bracelets and really cool, big, chunky ones like this that live on my desk and I pet all during the day. My whole thing is about living intentionally, and so setting. Hey, I love it, Drea.
Setting on their desk. Come on.
You should see. I have a herd of crystals. It's I love it. I love it. But for me, it's a way to have a moment of meditation in the morning when I'm picking out my bracelets and set some intentions on how I want to feel for the rest of the day. And then having a physical reminder throughout the day to bring me back to that intention. Oh, right. I didn't want to lose my crap with my kids today, or I needed to be productive, or, I wanted to call in creativity or whatever that is. So right now I am online only. I've been open about 6 months. And I'm very looking forward to starting to pitch some of the local retailers. So I have lots of questions for Drea. So, this talk here is really timely just because it is totally different. Like right now I've got the whole Shopify site, went to Procure, had a great Procure experience, but would like to have, you know, that, like you said, steadier, bigger orders, be able to get in and grow my St. Louis market, because eventually I'd love to be brick and mortar, and be more of like a gift boutique, especially where I live here in the city. It caters to a lot of like really old people, and not like, you know, hip, like, I don't know, us 30, 40 somethings, who, you know, aren't looking for silver platters to give our granddaughters. So, you know, there's a market for that. And there are really few places to get really awesome crystals in St. Louis. So.
Well, and we're working on, so we're the Women's Creative, we've been hosting the working lunches at Empower on the 2nd and 4th Wednesday of every month at noon. And we're going to have, Rebby's going to host a, do you want to talk about that? We haven't picked yet, but if you want to talk about that really quick.
My meditation course is called Meditation for the Busy and Fidgety. And it's not about like having 30 minutes of like free time to like, you know, sit in the perfect lotus position in your like perfectly quiet space. It's all about giving you tools and techniques that you can use when you're claustrophobic and you're in a 45-minute MRI on your brain, or when your kid is having a meltdown in the back seat and you're like, I need to recenter myself before I snatch them up and do something that I know is going to get me like on the nightly news, or, you know, it's like, or you're dealing with a customer or, you know, whatever. You need that ability to drop back into your Zen and reconnect again with your intention and your integrity and your values in those really tough moments. So like one of the techniques takes 30 seconds. It's super, super simple. So we're going to do a 1 hour, the lunch and learn, and give you guys some tools to use in those, like fit meditation into your life, as opposed to having to rearrange your life around wanting to have a meditation practice.
Rebby, what day is that? I need to put it on my calendar.
We haven't scheduled it yet. Lindsay and I were texting about it earlier.
Let me know.
Earlier today. I'm sure it'll be out on all the channels and
well, we're in the building at Empower, so I'll just come out the door. Just join
there.
Perfect.
Yeah, we're gonna announce that the next week. So when we talk tomorrow, we'll pick the date and then run with it.
Perfect.
So I know
I love the way you talk about it, Rebby.
I'm sorry?
I love the way you talk about it.
I like, it's kind of just become my thing, and it saved my bacon in some pretty gnarly, like just personal situations, having a meditation practice, but realizing that it's got to be practical. So I'm not like precious about it, right? Like it's got to be a tool that I can use when shit's getting real. And so that's kind of where I focused. And I put my girlfriend through it, and she is like the highest, like she's such a squirrel, like she can't focus on anything. And I got her to be able to meditate, and she was like, girl, if you can teach me how to do this, you can teach anybody. So, you know, I've had some really good results, and she was like my target market. I knew if I could nail her down, then I had something going. So
nice. Thank you. Well, it's coming soon. And then next I see Jessica.
Hey guys, oh my gosh, it's so fun hearing everyone's businesses, and I love all the food at Caldi, so I have to like give a shout out to April. And so, and I want to say not Rebby, Reb, how did you?
Like Debbie, but with an R.
Rebby. I love it. I am like so excited for that class. Oh my gosh. I think that'll be amazing. I feel like everybody needs that in their own way. It's like every time something happens, I'll think I'm fine, and then I'll like be on the verge of like losing it. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like how much tension was I storing up? I love it. But so I have the privilege of being able to work on the Women's Creative team with Lindsay, and then also with Lexi. And so see so many of you guys through that. And then I also have a background in marketing and PR, working with Soft Surroundings here in St. Louis. And then behind me, you can kind of see my own little project that I have called Mount Indigo, which is like my little sustainable fashion startup where I upcycle denim jackets and like put fun things on the back and artwork, and working on a puff shoulder one right now. So I love kind of getting to see everyone's worlds from like different angles through these different things that I do.
Thank you. And Jessica, she's very modest, but she's the power behind Procure. So,
well, thanks to everyone's help and like all of you guys for participating in it.
You're modest. Next is Lexi.
Hi, everybody. I had a very late dinner, so I was like MIA for a bit. But so I work actually with Lindsay with her City Block team, and I do like different marketing associate and stuff like that for her, but I also do photography on the side, and that's my own kind of business. I actually saw Rebby today and took some pictures of her stuff and bought more bracelets. So yeah, it's been great just working with this and getting to do more with the Women's Creative, and it's just so neat to like, I don't know, be more of a part of it. And I'm just like absorbing everything from everyone and how to like start going further with my photography, because I'm rebranding it right now and getting ready for some exciting stuff. So yeah, it's nice to see you all, and yeah.
Thank you. And then next we have Samantha. And she might, let's see, she might be away for a minute, so we can always come back if she, oh wait, okay. Yeah, we'll come back. So yeah, this is now an opportunity. This, again, hearing all of you and your stories is my favorite part of the evening on these Thursdays. Alexis, I see you have a kitty. Mine was popping in as well.
I love seeing everybody's animals.
Danny likes attention.
Okay. So does Kathy. My cat. Okay, so are there any other, this is the time we can all just kind of keep chatting about what's going on with you, or if anyone has any ideas that you maybe want to pose to our two panelists, or just questions. Yeah, let's ask away. Does anyone have any questions that weren't answered earlier?
Yeah, I did, if I can jump in. Yeah. So again, where I am, I'm starting to want to pitch to retail. And so like, I feel like I get stuck in the like just the starting, like, how do I even approach a local retailer? Like, do I just walk in and be like, yo, can I, can I speak to the owner? Can I speak to the manager? Do you call ahead? Like, and then what, as a store owner, would you expect, like a pricing sheet, or, I feel like I need to have this like pitch package, with this folder and folio and walk in, and I'm just super intimidated by that whole thing. Like, I can talk to anybody, but like walking in with a purpose to pitch somebody just feels like really intimidating. Like they're going to expect something from me that I just didn't even know, and I'm going to look like an idiot when when I get in there.
So I would say pick what you think is a quiet time in retail. So like, no offense, don't come at lunchtime. Don't come right when the store opens. Like, those are the times that we're kind of like, anyway, right? So here's my primer. Come in wearing your stuff, but just cutely wearing your stuff and being yourself. Shop, talk to the shop owner, talk to the shopper, whoever's there. And then after you feel like you've sort of like established something, like for me, like I might see that and be like, oh, I like your bracelets. And then you'd be like, perfect opening. Actually, I make these. Would you guys ever be interested in it? And just like, I would say for me, like first meeting is really nice for it to be casual. And also because then I feel like you've checked out my store. So whether or not you feel like it's a good fit or you would like to be here. Like you've given it a little bit of research. I've built a tiny bit of a relationship with you. That all feels more comfortable. And then you can be like, you know, I would love to meet with you sometime. Can I send you a line sheet? Can I shoot you an email? Can I come back and show you my stuff? Right? Because like, for me, like somebody who shows up and they're like, I've got a bag full of stuff I would love to show you. Like right now, I'm going to be like, oh, okay, not right this second, you know, right? Sure. So, I mean, I think it's just like build a tiny bit of a relationship, show that you like are like wearing your stuff or like that you're repping your stuff in some way. Send a note. If you make note cards, you send a note on your note card, right, Emily? Like, you know, like show off like who you are and what you do, and then build a little bit of a relationship. And then I would say when you come back to see me, you have some product to show me. If you don't have a lot of product to show me, some really good product shots that maybe Lexi has taken and Allison has taken, and, you know, like have some product shots or have a website that you can like be like, okay, here's my website. If you want to see more of this, if you want to know my story, like direct me back to the website, have some good photography, have some products. And then like when you were asking, is there something I should have? You should have at least know how much you want to charge for it. And if you can have some sort of like a cute leave behind that's maybe like a postcard that has like, you know, pictures of your crystals, pictures of your bracelets on the back side. It might say, you know, a little story about you, your phone number, your email, your website. And you could maybe put, if you have really simplified pricing, you could put some simplified pricing on there. Otherwise, I'm going to go look at your website. Your bracelets are $80 and I'm going to be like, okay, so probably her bracelets are going to be $40 wholesale. And yeah, I can retail a bracelet at $80. So sure, you know. Okay. And then I always say, don't be afraid to chase me a little, but not too much, you know, because we're just busy, and retailers in general, we're so on all the time for customers that we tend to not be real good about like being responsive and or like showing up at meetings or doing stuff like that. You know what I mean? So I'm not saying I'm going to ghost you. I'm just saying it's okay to be like, hey, I'm Rebby. I met you last week. You know, can I show you my stuff? And if I don't respond, maybe give it a couple of weeks and be like, oh, hey, I'm Rebby. Do you remember me? I'd love to show you my stuff. Or maybe make it a phone call kind of thing. Because also, I mean, let's face it, I've got an aggressive junk mail filter. And I mean, you just don't know. Sometimes with the email world, I'm like, I would rather like go ahead and call. It's okay to call and talk to me in person. Like sometimes I would rather, because like my email is one of those things that's over there and I'm generally trying to avoid it.
Yeah.
Does that help?
Yeah, it does. I think, you know, the like going in and shopping, like I've definitely like done some scouting and know kind of like where I would like to start. I just not knowing who the owners are, like, you know, like some of that is a little awkward, right? Like, am I getting this, you know, clearly a 16-year-old, like you can spot, but you know, like you look at somebody and you're like, are you the person that I should talk to about this? And so I don't know.
Yeah.
The whole like nervousness of it just kind of.
Yeah. And that's why I think like a kind of a scouting, kind of a casual introduction is maybe an easier way than like, you know, because then you can just be like kind of chatty with them and then like probably recognize. People tend to know, I think, like if we're the owner or the manager, you know, people recognize it. Oh, look, Allison's cat's here too. I love everybody's cats. I think people show up know like that, who kind of be able to tell who's in charge usually, you know, and you know.
Yeah, or, you know, I can kind of add a little bit to that.
Ask for a business card.
Thank you. April, did you want to add a little bit?
Yeah, I was just gonna add. I mean, I know I don't have like a physical service like Rebby has, but I feel you on like the awkwardness of like knowing what to do. What I've kind of done is, I mean, obviously I always carry my business cards on me, but because I'm always eating out at restaurants and well, at least, you know, before the pandemic, let's pick it back up now. You know, and I'm always kind of like observing their operations when I'm sitting down in there and thinking about like how I could help them, or if I see anything obvious, like I kind of just keep a little notebook of like, here's where I'm at. Like I'm at Coma Coffee today. They seem to be struggling with guest services in the front of house or what, kind of take a few notes. And I kind of just play things by ear. Like sometimes things come up naturally. Like sometimes I just get chit chatty with a random person that I don't know as the owner. And I'm like, oh my God, I loved my meal today. Oh, what'd you have? I had this. It was incredible. What do you use on this? Blah, blah, blah. And then, next thing you know, oh, you're the owner. Oh, that's great. And then if it comes up naturally, which sometimes it does, it's like, oh, I actually work in the restaurant industry as well. What do you do? This is what I do. Oh my God, I need that. Here's my card. Sometimes, it does happen organically, but on those other times, I just tend to like keep a little notebook of my own and then make sure, I'm following them on Instagram and social media, kind of engage with them there. Sometimes usually like they'll follow you back. So then now they can kind of see what my services are. And I kind of work that longer game angle as well of like engaging with them on social media and then maybe following up with like a direct message on social media. Like, hey, I was at your place last week and I had this and I really loved it. And, these are my services. Like if you would ever be interested in sitting down, like I would love to sit down, talk with you. I just did that with the Sister Sandwiches that just opened. I think they're part of the collective as well. And she was like super nice about it. She was like, yeah, come on in, let's sit down, let's chat. Let's see what you have to offer. So sometimes it's just going for it. Like I get nervous and I think like, oh my God, I don't want to piss anybody off, but like at the end of the day, I think as long as you're coming from like a genuine place and you're not just like walking straight in the store, like I have something to sell, trying to create like a genuine connection. It usually happens pretty naturally. That's just my experience, but
yeah. And I think if you get weirded out or shy or just like whatever, I mean, Rebby, you don't strike me as the type that would get real shy about it. But I think if you do, then you know what? You have your little shopping experience, you've scouted, you go back, start liking stuff on Facebook at that shop, and then send a DM and be like, hey, I was in your shop last week. It's so cute. I happen to make these bracelets and I would love it if you would look at them. And just, do that. Like, I get kind of weird about in-person interaction sometimes too. So it's nice sometimes to just get a DM. And also it allows me to do a little checking out you, without you standing there next to me while I'm checking you out. You know what I mean? So sometimes it's nice to have that, a little bit of personal interaction and then a little bit of online interaction and then come back around to like meeting and looking at the product together kind of thing,
Yeah, I agree with you, Drea, because like you don't want to put them on the spot either. Like, oh, now I suddenly have to like, figure out what you need from me or want from me. And I'm more like Nicole. Like I actually hate that part of the job. Like I hate the sales pitch of it all. Like I just want to do what I'm good at. Like I get very anxious and very, very stressed out about like the sales pitch part of it. So it's like, that's when I do need my quick meditation of like, okay, calm down. You're just a human being asking another human being a question. Calm down. It's going to be okay. And like the worst they say is like, no, or not right now, or maybe some other time. But best case scenario, you got a new client or a new person to, have your stuff in. So
I don't think anybody loves the sales pitch. I mean, I got to be honest. I mean, even people who are natural salespeople, I don't think anybody loves the sales pitch. For me, like, I love what I'm selling. And so it makes it easier to sell. I think if I was trying to sell cars or something that I don't love, like tennis shoes, I don't think that I would. I think there is. If you're selling yourself and you love yourself and you love what you do, then it's easier because you don't really think of it as selling. You're just explaining something that you love, right? Or you're talking or you're chatting up about something that you love. And so that's much easier. And if you think about it that way, instead of thinking about it as the pitch kind of thing,
Yeah, I kind of went through this process a couple years ago, if you want to talk about this, Rebby, at all, like more in detail. But what I did, same thing, I would carry business cards, and then I would, like Drea said, I would go and kind of shop the stores, and then you just feel it out. And what I did was I made a sell sheet. So I had a generic one that I just kept in my car, and then I would keep samples of my prints and cards, and then I would just wear a big person and would like kind of feel it out. And I just had a sell sheet, and it was kind of like, hey, here's who I am, and it had kind of like a postcard like she was talking about, but it had a couple product shots. It was like, hey, I'm a lettering artist, I'm a local artist, this is my background, this is where I went to school, here's what I do. And then if, like how you said, you scouted specific places, I actually made it for the specific place. If I knew, I would, like, the first store I got into was the White Rabbit, and I literally had no idea what I was doing. I just put a sell sheet together, and I just said, here's why selling my product would be good. And I talked about how I would help post it on my social media, so that would help their engagement. And they like, and I just gave it to one of their workers, and I said, hey, I know, because I think it was like early November, so right before the holidays, but I was just like, if someone can contact me eventually, and they did the next week, and they were like, hey, if you want to do a pop-up shop next Saturday, let us know. And I was like, sure, why not? Don't know what I'm doing, but like threw it all together. And then now I have prints, frame prints, cards, stickers, so it's just grown from there. So you just never know, all those little things. But then I would carry a generic one, so if I was just like out and about and I would go into a store and I was like, oh, this, my stuff would sell good here, then I would be like, hey, you know, same thing if you're ever interested. But if you ever want to talk more about that, hit me up.
I will message you, Emily. Thanks.
So okay, you've talked about this a little bit, like getting a no. How do you, I don't know, I struggle with saying no, but also like hearing no can be hard too. How do you kind of come back from a no? And I have to, like, all of you women, I feel like it makes each of you stronger because you're all amazing. But yeah, like how do you deal with no?
I mean, I just kind of told myself, I mean, the worst thing that can be said is no, or if you don't get a response, that's fine. But it's opened up the doors for bigger opportunities too. So it's just kind of like, you just kind of have to push yourself and try. And it's part of the imposter syndrome, but then you just kind of have to like be your own champion and be like, you know what, I got this. Like, I'm going to reach out to the Blues or the Cardinals, or, you know, like these people that you don't think are like Emo's Pizza. Like that's kind of how we got started, was just through messages on Instagram and just like liking each other's things. It's just like, but I mean, I've been told no too, and I'm like, you know what, that's okay, maybe another time. So
awesome. And sometimes no is not yet, or not right now, or somebody knowing that it's not a good fit for them, and you know that means it's not a good fit for you either. So you know, next.
Mm-hmm.
I was gonna say kind of what Drea said. Like, for me at least, like I'm interviewing them as much as like they're interviewing me. Like, I don't want to have clients that I like don't look forward to working with, or I'm like slugging through the work, or like, oh, I have to go meet with them. Like, I want to have fun, positive, like joyful people that I'm working with too. So just because like they want my service doesn't mean I'm just gonna be like, yes, you know, whatever. So I think it's just as much as like, you know, like with the retail stuff, like making sure your stuff is in places that you feel prideful about and that you're excited about as well, and not just like because they said yes, they'll take your stuff. You know, it's like anybody that takes it, you know. And I think that also builds up your, you know, your self-confidence of like knowing your worth and stuff too. So, and for me, it's like, I'm in the restaurant industry, so there's a billion restaurants. Like if someone says no, and I'm someone who's a people pleaser and it takes things pretty harshly. But like, it's like, well, there's a billion other restaurants that go knocking on their door. Like, you know, so they're not going away. So I know it's just next, let's move on.
Yeah. I think that's the quote I'm taking away. No is next.
The other quote that I've heard recently that I'm like trying to tattoo on the inside of my eyelids is, I already have the no. Right? Like from Luso, I already have a no because I'm not there. But if like, I can only change the no, I already have the no if I don't pitch it, if I don't try. So it's about changing it into a yes, as opposed to like getting a no, because it's already a no if you don't try.
Yeah, that's a good way to think about it, for sure.
I'd like to interject a Beyonce quote that has really guided me in my life. I have to look up because I think I said this at like my senior speech or something in my sorority. But it is, the reality is sometimes you lose. You're never too good to lose. You are never too big to lose, and you are never too smart to lose. It happens. And I think coming from Beyonce, I was like, okay, we got this.
Love that.
Yeah. I mean, it seems trite, but we do learn from that stuff, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody gets the first job that they interview for. So you have to think about it the same way, you know, with your products or your services. It's kind of like a job interview, and it's not always the perfect fit. It's not always, but it's a good dress rehearsal for the next one.
Mm-hmm.
The best advice I actually got from a mentor was about starting my own business was that you don't need a client. Like you kind of like approach the pitch or the meeting as if, you know, you don't need this person, because once you start thinking like I need to have this client sign on, then you start to kind of lose yourself a little bit in the conversation, or start to say, okay, well, maybe I can do this for you, or okay, you don't like that, okay, let me change this so that we can, or let me lower my price, because you have that mental state that, oh, I need to have this client, I need to book this person. And if you approach it that way, then you start to kind of like lose your confidence in the meeting a little bit. So once it kind of like clicked with me when she said that, and I was like, oh, okay, like I have to go in there thinking like, this is, I think April, you mentioned it, like, you know, it's not just, I'm not just interviewing for the job, but you're interviewing for me in a way too, because I'm a valuable person in this equation as well, you know? So I think kind of that kind of perspective shift and that shift in my mindset really helped me moving forward and growing my business, because I showed up more confidently when I met with potential folks, because I knew that I had something valuable to offer as well, that it wasn't just, you know, the other way around kind of thing.
And just to be transparent, like, I mean, I'm a recovering people pleaser / like perfectionist. So like, I definitely am over here like, yeah, don't compromise yourself. But it's like, I'm still trying to not do that, and still trying to like start afresh with like my boundaries and my values and stuff. Because in past, you know, when I didn't have my own business, when I was working for other people, it's like once you start letting those walls down and letting your boundaries go and letting all, you know, and start people pleasing and yes, it's so hard to rein that back in. So I've been like very intentional with my business as far as like, you know, those things, but it's hard because I want to compromise, or I want to lower my price, or I want to just get anybody that wants me, you know, it's like, so I'm trying to like, you know, speak it into being, I guess.
I'm like seeing the chats pop up at the same time, and I'm like LOLing. But
I just
like,
saw the crystal.
So
I have
April, you're sharing
over there.
I'm like,
Revy hooked me up at the Procure Market last month, and I have been obsessed with it.
Oh, yeah. I just love that, but I love this kind of like, hey, I'm a recovering this, like we're struggling with this. Like I think this whole entrepreneurial journeys, we're always trying to improve. We're always trying to get better. Like just because we have a business all of a sudden doesn't mean that imposter syndrome goes away, or like people pleasing goes away. Like we're always trying to get stronger and kind of tapping into the different things that we need to tap into to kind of overcome these obstacles. And I think that's the reality of being an entrepreneur and like a business owner. And I think I'm going to get on my high horse here, but a lot of things that I see right now is I feel like it's the opposite. Like I'm a boss babe and I make 7-figure, you know what I mean? Like there's no vulnerability there. And I think what we're sharing right now, I hope people watch it, you know, on replay, because I think this is what real small business owners go through, and it's always a constant kind of growth and struggle kind of thing. Sorry.
Agreed.
Agreed. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny what you say, Nicole, about like having this facade, like you have it all together, because like, I mean, before you and Drea both said like you hate having your picture taken, I was like, what? Because you're just like such gorgeous women. I'm like, imagine like they're always posting selfies and stuff.
I have to see my phone. I have like 50 reels that I like tried to do.
Yeah, fake it till you make it.
All my selfies are in sunglasses. the only way I like any picture ever is me in sunglasses.
You're so funny. I actually love your like glasses.
I know your regular glasses are so cute.
Thank you.
I know. I love
I'm just gonna buy big ones. Like,
They are kind of big, right? But I
love them.
I know. I love the big ones.
they're statement glasses, but I like them. It's funny because I feel very naked without my glasses. I've worn glasses since I was 16, and I feel super right. Emily's shaking her head. I feel super naked without my glasses. In fact, I have this pair of glasses that's like a nude pink color, and every time I put them on, I'm like, oh no, it's not enough glasses for me.
So do you ever wear contacts, or are you always in glasses?
Always in glasses.
Yeah.
Yeah. I tried contacts. Didn't feel good for me.
Yeah.
I can't touch my eyeball.
And I'm real old, ladies. Like I'm way more old than you. These are progressive bifocals.
They're so cute. And then I guess all your sunnies then are prescription.
Yeah. Oh my God. Prescription sunglasses changed my life. They're amazing.
I know, because otherwise you're like, oh, now I have to put my contacts on because I'm going to put my sunglasses on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally.
Well,
Rebby and Lexi, were you in the back room taking pictures today? Rebby and Lexi, were you in the back room taking pictures today?
Yes.
Oh, I'm putting it together now. Yeah. You were talking about that. I was like, because I think I ran through really quick. I was showing client around, and then you were talking about that. I was like, oh, all right.
Yes,
cool.
yeah. Yeah,
I
Lexi's doing all of our, so Lexi's doing all the vendor photography for Procure.
Oh, nice.
Lexi's amazing. If anyone
I need some product photography.
Oh man,
Let me know. Do you?
She's in your office
today. What were we doing? It was when I was with everybody taking pictures. I told Lindsay the mannequin with the blues.
Mm-hmm.
I need it.
Me too.
I do.
Amazing.
I was like,
we'll be at the Blues store for fall, I think.
That's what I thought. I didn't think it would be out because I'm a huge blues fan. So I'm like,
we have one that should be showing up if it's not already there. That's in the it's like a bra, exercise bra and leggings. That's in the retro collection.
Oh, is that?
It should be in the store soon if it's not there now. Yeah, you can come in the office. I show it to you.
Good to know.
You have like such a good sneak peek at
I know.
You know what? This is a retail thing. I hate a naked mannequin. A naked mannequin makes me want to lose my mind. Like when I leave the store, every day when I leave the store for 20 years, I drive past the front window. And if for some reason there's a naked or a half naked mannequin, I come back and I park my car and I put some clothes on that girl because I do not like a naked mannequin. I don't know. It makes me crazy. So we've got this big fancy, for those of you who haven't been in the back of Empower, we have this crazy expensive ghost mannequin that we bought. And the ghost mannequin has these pieces that you can take out of it so that when you photograph it, you can see in like the back neck and stuff. So there's just like, she's this big. She's got way too long of a torso and she's way too skinny. That's the only thing like I do not like about her. But I was like, oh my God, we were having tours and all kinds of stuff. And I was like, we can't leave a naked mannequin back there. So I had to get her dressed.
I'm going to taunt you with like all the naked mannequin pictures I have on my phone.
Oh my God. It's you too? Like you can't, I mean, like when I drive by, like, I don't know, like in New York, you drive by Anthropologie and there's a naked mannequin. You're like, really?
I know. You're like, seriously, that's like the front of your store.
Yeah, no.
I'm just used to being surrounded by naked mannequins from work. And like we used to do the Office Olympics every year. And we did it in this room with like just rows and rows of naked mannequins because they were like getting ready to prep for like a fake floor set. And so we had all these like fake Olympic medals. And so I like lined them up all with medals on them. And like then my job was always like taking pictures because you have to capture everything, you know, for like the office events. And I'm like, is HR going to be okay with me having like all these like naked women mannequins with like half the people at our office actually are like men, like they're working in like IT and all this stuff. And I'm like, this is probably like really inappropriate, but it's so funny.
Oh my God. That's so funny. Yeah. Pet peeves, retail pet peeves.
But yeah, I can't understand it when you see them in an open store naked and you're like,
yeah,
someone needs
give it 5 minutes.
What are you thinking?
They might have just taken it off of that mannequin to put it in the dressing room. If it's more than 5 minutes. Then.
Or like a customer was like, oh, finally I found my size. I'm just going to shimmy it off.
I've done that. I want the blues Hawaiian shirt.
It's real cute.
It's so cute. I want to get
it.
The
white one or the blue one? The white one was from last year. They still have a few, but the blue one's this year's.
I don't remember. I think it was the blue one. My husband, I almost called him.
I was going to say for yourself or your husband?
For him. He is a crazy blues fan, and he needs it.
My husband wears
for our honeymoon, but
my husband had one from last year, and he's like literally like during the pandemic, when the only place he went was the grocery store. Like 6 men would stop him every time he was in the grocery store wearing the blues Hawaiian shirt. Hilarious. I know. I may have missed my calling doing women's stuff instead of men's stuff because that one's good.
It's so great.
Ugh. Sorry, my mom just came in and brought me beef jerky from the Annex. Has anyone been to the Annex? Where the used to be at Frisco. They had it in the April's like, I've been to every restaurant.
Love the Annex. No, I love it there. It's like I can't walk out of there without spending $100 though every single damn time, because then like, I need this jam and this thing and this condiment and this crap.
Very good beef jerky. They used to have it as an appetizer at Frisco, but now they have it in the store at the Annex instead.
Oh.
My parents live with me, if you guys didn't figure that out, since I was like, my mom just brought me jerky.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really old, but I live with my parents.
My mom would love that.
We're multi-generational. My parents, my husband and I, and our 2 kids, 6 of us in one house, and the crazy dog. And all kinds of crazy animals, because my husband's a 2nd grade teacher, so we have geckos and turtles and frogs and millipedes and all kinds of crazy shit upstairs. Sorry.
Oh, I love it.
Yes.
I have another quick retail question. Just how far in advance do you look to purchase for a season?
So like in the sort of gift world, sorry, now I'm going to talk through my jerky.
Oh, no, it's my fault for asking the question when you had your mouth full.
Super rude, sorry. In the gift world, everybody does it different, right? Because every vendor has different windows. So like when we go to traditional markets, in a traditional year, when we're going to traditional markets in like January or February, and you can buy at that market, depending on what people are selling and what their windows are, anywhere from immediate product that we can get shipped right away to like stuff through December, like holiday stuff sells real far in advance. But typically what we do is we'll buy in January or February through like July and gift stuff. And then we'll go to market again in like July, August and buy through the holidays. So typically it's that kind of window. And then we do OTBs, but like I meet all kinds of retailers that just buy what they like and ship it when they want and stuff. So we do open to buy windows, meaning like we have a January sell window, we have a January ship window, a February ship window, a March ship window, and then we separate it out by how much money we're spending on home goods, how much money we're spending on jewelry, how much money we're spending on clothing. And then as we go to market or as we buy from different vendors, we fill them into our OTBs. And when you run out of money for February, you run out of money for February and you start, pushing them into different months. But that way you also get a better balance of the things that you've got coming during different seasons and stuff. So it was a real elusive answer, but basically I would say if you have a window, like if you're making things, then you want to tell people, when you order this, you can get it in like 6 to 8 weeks, maybe like give yourself a window to actually be able to make your product. Say the soonest you can get this is 6 to 8 weeks, unless you have immediates in stock.
Sure.
And then tell them that they can book it up to 4 months in advance or, something like that.
Okay. And then you would expect to like pay when it ships or like.
So again, it kind of depends on the vendor.
Okay.
We tend to pay a lot of stuff with credit card at the time of shipment.
Got it.
So, but there's something called Net 30. If you've ever heard of Net 30, and lots of businesses do Net 30, which means like you give them 30 days after they receive the goods to pay it.
Yeah. My background is actually corporate contracts. So I worked for Motorola and BP and did it actually for the Air Force as well. So supplier contracts is is my unfortunate language that I know.
There is net 60, there's net 90, there's net 120, believe it or not, in the beverage industry. Who said they came from the beverage industry? Was that Allison? I think she's gone. Yeah, I mean, like, and sometimes you just got to take those terms. But net 30 is very typical in the retail world. Net 30 is. So, and that's really up to you. We do a lot of vendors offer pay up front for the first order, and then they'll set you up as net 30, which is kind of nice too.
Sure. Okay. Well, that gives me a good idea of how far to plan ahead, because my products are kind of like seasonally focused on, what's going on, like fall, winter, spring, whatever.
Well, and you have to decide whether or not you want to take credit cards too, because if you take credit cards, then of course there is, merchant fees. And I don't know. There are people that are like, okay, we'll take your credit card, but we'll add 3% to it. I don't dig that, because I don't have the option to do that with my customers. So for me, I'm kind of like, build your 3% in and just assume that you're going to have to pay it.
It's like the airlines, don't charge me for my checking my bag. Just build it into the price and let me check my dang bag. Yeah. So no, I'm with you there on baking everything into the price.
But know that unfortunately, you may, if you don't make people pay up front, you may have to be the collections officer for your business sometimes. You have to chase people down.
Yeah.
Been there.
Thank you.
Right. All entrepreneurs, we all get to be collections sometime or another.
Least fun. Any other questions? Anything exciting for anyone that you want everyone else to know?
Just sign up for the meditation course when that comes out.
Yeah, we'll talk tomorrow. So yeah, just a couple things that are upcoming for the collective. We have so next week's working lunch is we're going to be focusing on sharing resources, because with the collective we really want to be a catalyst for kind of archiving resources and sharing those with the members. So we have a list of our favorites, and we're also asking anyone that can attend either via Zoom or in person Wednesday at noon to come prepared to share some of your favorite resources, whether it's an app that helps you schedule social, or maybe a tool that helps you with budgeting, anything really that's helped you with your business. Come ready to kind of chat about it and share it with the group. And then we're going to share the full comprehensive list of resources that we learn about during that session after. And nice. Then we'll have our meditation session in June, most likely.
Awesome.
So thanks, ladies. This was so fun. Thank you all for being here tonight.
Thanks for hosting. You always do such an awesome job. I loved hearing from all of you guys.
Yeah, Drea and Nicole, thank you so much. This was, I think just a testament to the questions that came through. Really helpful and meaningful for all of us. So thank you for sharing your knowledge.
I love to bring better understanding. So if y'all have questions, hit me up. It's all good.
Same. I followed everybody if I haven't followed you already. So
yay.
Good idea. I need
That's
to do
what
that.
this is all about.
And I just want to say one thing. I signed up for Rebby's kind of for meditation, like e-blast thing. It's good.
Oh, good.
She's gonna bring it. So I definitely, and if you can go, she's pretty awesome.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, so right now it's available for free as 10 emails over the course of 2 weeks. And so it starts a new session starts every Monday. So if you want to have it, in physical form in your inbox that you can, refer back to, that's available on, soon will be on my website. Nicole's team is actually helping me with some website upgrades. So soon it will be, but you can get to it from my Instagram. It's just it's a ConvertKit landing page, and it's not talking nicely to my Shopify web page. So we're working on that, but the link is available in my Instagram bio. So Awesome.
Well, I just have to say how impressive it is how you have jump-started your business. And it's like you're talking about the things that you want to like learn more of, but you're like light years ahead of so many people that just started their business like 6 months ago, you know, and obviously you have so much else going on in your life at the same time. So it's like so clear that you're like so on it. Like you're just doing so many cool things. And like I'm so excited to see where you take it.
And I hit like 2 like fun baby business like steps where I got like an honest to God order from a stranger. Like,
and isn't that so exciting? You're like,
oh my God.
like someone actually ordered something for me. I don't know that.
And then like within 2 hours, I got like another order, and I was like, oh, and I just sat here with like this shit-eating grin on my face, and I was like, this is so fun. Like I'm just having a blast. And yeah, it's just I'm having a lot of fun. And so it feels good to finally be doing something, because corporate, doing the contracts, I was always the big person saying I want net 120 from, you know, these little bitty suppliers, and it just sucked. It was really soul sucking to be the one working with small business owners and saying, you've got to squeeze more blood out of the stone. And so I love doing something that really empowers women to live their best life. And so it's hard not to be jazzed about it and kind of pour everything I have into it.
Lexi was showing off her bracelets that she bought from you during the photo shoot.
Rebby, what's your Instagram?
It's Freya's Haven.
I feel like at Procure, your booth was always so busy. Like I would do like my like zipping through to like see everyone, and it's like you were so busy. Like I couldn't even like get in.
I had no voice left at the end. I had literally no voice left. So some lessons I learned was like packaging, like I need to have more information on the packaging so that I don't have to say it, and you know, like I don't have to explain everything.
Yeah. But it's those pop-ups are so good for you to know like what are the questions everyone was asking? Like what are the things you kept having to repeat, like putting that on the packaging, or like the things that were exciting people the most that you wouldn't have even thought to put in your packaging. Now you're like, well, everyone loved this, so I'm gonna like make sure to call that out. Like it's such good like research and development at those.
Oh, it was great. But I sat down twice and you're right. I mean, there wasn't a time that I wasn't actively helping somebody, except for like the 2 pee breaks when my husband, who knows nothing about crystals, was like, run and get your butt back here, because I can't answer anybody's questions besides like
I
prices.
love that he was there though.
Oh my God, he's my biggest champion, and he's totally supportive of it, even though he's like, go do your crazy crystal lady stuff. Like,
but then he saw the demand. Like that's probably cool for him to be like, oh, it's not just like me supporting her, like people are into this.
Oh, I mean, I think he understood that. He's just totally logical, and like he's the Excel spreadsheet to my woo, even though I can talk Excel, you know, and because I did have this very, you know, corporate numbers driven negotiation background, but I'm like, it's crystals and energy and meditation. And he's like, and numbers and money. And, you know, because I'm like, I want a retail space. And he's like, we're going to have to pay a lease, Rebby. Like you gotta walk before you can sprint. So no, he's a good support structure, and I'm so glad I had somebody who could just ring people up, because I was busy. And we did have a thought, Jessica, that for the Procure markets, it would be interesting data to have if you sent out like an after survey, just so that people could kind of get a sense of like, you know, ballpark, what were your, you know, how many sales did you have? Or everybody's got a different price point, but it would just help to kind of give you a sense of like, in the marketplace, we had this many, you know, people in the food industry and this many people in this, and in this market, like this is the total that was spent.
Yeah, like the average booth had an average of like 10 transactions or whatever. Yeah.
Sure. Or like, you know, total $10,000 was spent in food. And so then, okay, I made $2,000. So I had a fifth of the pie that was spent there.
Yeah.
It would just be really interesting data for, us as suppliers to have, right? Like Emily and, the other graphic artists or something, to be like, how am I doing with the competition that's out there, the other jewelry places or gift and home decor and clothing lines and stuff like that.
That's such a good point. And it's not like we're not a market that charges you based on how much you make. So there wouldn't really be a reason for anyone to lie. And like, we wouldn't say like, well, Rebby's booth made this, like it would all be anonymous. So I think people would be willing to be honest about it. And I think it'd be cool to even do some kind of like happy hour, maybe like twice a year or something like this, where we bring all of our vendors together and they can all kind of brainstorm and share too. Cause like you said, it's like everyone's bringing more people to the market. They're not necessarily like competing with each other. So it's like, I definitely think a group that would be willing to share best practices, or like we had talked about like opportunities to help people that are new vendors. Like, what do I even like need to bring or do? And
right. Well, and like, I was so busy. I didn't get a chance to like look up. I didn't get a chance to shop anybody else's stuff, but I don't have a sense of, was everybody slammed like that, or was I knocking it out of the park? And if I knocked it out of the park, like, did I over deliver? Was I underpriced? Like, those are the kinds of questions that I want to start like digging into the data so that I can play and, with my pricing or with my product offering. So having just a little bit of aggregated data coming out of one of those procure markets. I know it's more work, but
it's such a good thought. And the fact that we're doing them monthly now instead of quarterly, and we're like getting into our stride every month. We're like, next month we're going to be so automated. And like, but we're like getting into our stride with it. And it'll allow us to have more time to like dig deeper, and then just have like a wider set of data, because we're doing so many, and because we have such a great group of like so many vendors that come, like it'll be easy once we get a good system going to kind of pull this kind of information.
I mean, even now, if you asked me, I'd be like, oh yeah, I had 40 transactions, and this was what I have the data for me, but it's just kind of curious, like, okay, well, how much money was spent at the procure marketplace? And that would be great information for you guys to have, to say, look, people who come to our marketplace
are making this much,
well, or are spending this much, right? Like, this is how much of like,
because they want to come support local. And I think that's actually a good exercise for the vendors as well, because I think there's a lot of vendors where this is their day-to-day, so they're used to going to a market and doing that. But I can tell you personally, like when I was juggling a full-time job and doing a market, I was like barely getting that stuff back out here in the sunroom, and then going back to my day job, and I wasn't doing all the analysis afterwards that I should have. But it's like what you're saying would encourage like those newer vendors, or the vendors that maybe don't come from that kind of structured mindset, to actually analyze the numbers and be like, oh, they're asking me these things, maybe I should be looking at these things and keeping track of it. And
right, like, I wanted to know, okay, I spent this much money, it was my first pop-up, I spent this much money, was it worth it for me to go, or do I need
and comparing that to other pop-up events,
and do I need to do 5 more of these to just make that investment back? And how did I come out, and was it worth a whole day, from start to finish, between setup and takedown? So I even had somebody like walk by as I was packing up, and she was like, that crystal is calling to me. She was like, can I still buy it? And I was like, sure. So yeah, it was a great event. I'm hoping to participate again here in June, but.
Hey, speaking of data analysis, Nicole, will you do a lesson on insights sometime? Because when you were talking earlier about you should pay attention to your insights, that might be a point for me. I know I need to, but I don't really even know how to look at that stuff or understand my ROI when it comes to like marketing and stuff like that.
Yeah, I would love to do that. And then the funny thing is, like, if you're purchasing schedule, or if you use like scheduling apps or software, you're essentially paying for those analytics, but a lot of folks don't ever look at them. And there's some really cool stuff that if you really dive into it, it's kind of cool. I'm nerding out about it, but like it's worth it. I would love to do that for sure.
All right. Do a seminar for us one of these days, please.
Yeah. We'll talk, Nicole. We'll set that up.
Oh yeah. Maybe when I come back from maternity.
Right.
Right.
We'll give a little break.
So my husband's like, hey, where
are you?
Are you getting the hook?
Baby crying. I'm like, no.
Okay, on that note, I think we Nicole to her husband and children. Okay, thank you all again for being here tonight. It was so much fun.
Nice to see everybody.
So good to see you guys.
Everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Talk to you soon.
Okay, bye.
Bye.